Hey folks, we're the Nomadic Gardeners here to talk about our hoop houses, which is this our first season. It's the third year that we've been growing, and the first time we've actually tried to build these out. Watched lots of YouTube videos to try to figure things out and how to do it. So we'll kind of do this in reverse order since we already assembled them, and go over how we decided to do everything. So this is 6 mil greenhouse plastic. It's supposed to last for about 4 years with being in the sun and everything. If you're going to do hoop houses, definitely do your research. Find these. It's pretty easy to find online, Amazon, whatever it is. Your local nursery probably has some rolls of this as well. It's a good resource, and we can get into the dimensions.
All right, so we got about 100 feet of 1-inch PEX tubing, PEX tubing. It's like PVC if you're not aware, and got that from our local hardware store, along with about a 50 feet total of 3/4 inch straight PVC, with the T fittings and some elbow fittings as well. So the T fittings for the end of the strict hoop houses, and then we'll go into a later video when we go into an overview of the garden. We use some elbow fittings and that PVC piping to complete one of the greenhouse structures, not quite a hoop house, but the same general idea, for a 1 foot by 8 foot bed that we were working on, that grows a lot of we're hoping this year grows a lot of lettuce and beans and snow peas, etc. So with that, we also, to figure out the length for our hoop house, we did pi times 3.14 times the diameter, the width of the bed itself, and that gave us our circumference. We divided that by 2 to get our length for just the half of the hoop, and we added about 12 inches, 6 inches each side for the height of the bed, because we used 2x6s to construct our beds. So with that combination gave us the correct length, measured that with a string because of measuring around the coil effectively of PEX tubing. We had to use a string to actually measure it out, get a little line there, cut it with some PVC cutters, which is super easy to do, and that gave us our hoop houses, which all of our larger beds have the same length hoop effectively. One of our beds is a little bit narrower than the other two, and that made those hoops a little bit larger, and we're hoping to give our tomatoes specifically a little more room to grow while still being protected early and late season, so we have a little extra height in there to work with. For the greenhouse plastic over the top, we got 6 mil, specifically greenhouse plastic, at 14 feet by 25 foot length rolls. Those worked great for us because we knew we needed about 7 feet width per bed. So once we measured for one length of bed, we could cut the length, and then with the folds there was a great crease that we could cut really easily along, and then move half of that over to the next bed, so we didn't have to cut a bunch of extra plastic. There was a lot of scrap, but that worked great because we used the scrap leftovers for the smaller beds and could cut them pretty close to size and work with that. But that's what we did for measurements and our general supplies. We'll put a link in the description below for all the supplies we used to build our PVC/PEX hoop houses, as well as the plastic in there.
So 6 mil plastic lasts for about 4 years. We got these little PVC 1-inch clips, which works really well. We just have one in each corner, and that holds the plastic fairly tight, so it doesn't flap around in the wind. It does get pretty windy up here. You can probably hear that on the camera. And they're holding actually really well with just 4 of them. We're looking at maybe getting a few other industrial clips. So if you look down over here, this area where we have our irrigation system, and because of the bend in our PEX tubing that we used for this over arch, it's a little bit further off the end of the bed. There's a lot of loose plastic down here, so maybe getting the clip that can cover over there, make that plastic a little tighter and not flap in the wind so much. But back over here, so the clips hold it down pretty well. We just cut it generally to size, fold it over, and clip down. That's been holding decently so far. Fold this back. So what we did is we measured across the width of the bed, times that by pi 3.14, and then divided that in half. That gave us the straight circle half of an arch, essentially. Gave us our arch length. Then we added the height of the bed, and these are 2x6s, so an extra foot or so on the bed. As you can see, they don't always go straight to the ground, but it works out pretty well with that extra length. We were able to adjust with these little fasteners. You can probably see that they got a little bit bent with this 1-inch PEX tubing. It's probably a little heavier duty than we actually needed. Still like it for how windy it is. If we get some snows and it does gather a little bit on the plastic, we don't have to worry about that at all. But it's relatively sturdy and more than sturdy enough for the weather and everything we have out here. So that gave us our general overarch with the PEX tubing, which came in a giant roll of, I think it was about 100 feet. And we just cut it per length, used a string to be able to measure along the curve, and then cut it with a PVC cutter, which was really simple. And then we got little T-fittings up here that would slide over the end of the PEX. They're not really secured there, and got a straight piece of PVC to run the beam down the top. So it's connected straight there and then over both of these middle sections. We used some string, it's because we had handy lying around, be able to tie it up there, which actually has worked out pretty well. It's really secure, isn't going to slide anywhere. And with that combination, when you put this over the top, it creates a little bit of a ridge line. So most of this moisture you're seeing is actually from the inside, from the insulation this plastic's providing. It's about 30 or so last night degrees. It's 45 or so right now. So it's gotten a little bit of condensation on the inside, but that's doing pretty well. If you have any questions about it, please let us know. I'd be happy to answer them. If you have any different ideas how we could do it in the future, or want to hear our feedback on how we might do it different in the future, let us know in the comments. Thanks.